clouds. Yeah. Now they see me out the. So now I come down into the real world from the clouds. I exist in the clouds. Yeah. Now they see me out the country. It's Red Pill. He's real. He came down from the clouds. Right.
Up in the Dumbo, smoking the gumbo. Few blocks before green, yeah, up in the jungle, coconut bundles. It's history in the making. I'm popping like fish to the grease and the bacon. My bitch is Jamaican. United we stand, dividing these bands. They hide in their hands. I'm riding in vans, slide through your land. Hopping the sprinters, tour of the underworld, popping the minter. Land of the turtles, I'm popping that splinter. Watching the snowfall, dropping the winter. Dodging the pitfalls, watching this bitch fall. And I still managed like Rich Paul. The paper was calling, I had to go switch calls. I spoke to my twin, I told my young boys I'd never be broken again. Invoking the gins, spitting the spirits, I'm soaking the gin. Your man's in the woods, we smoking on him. Fuck do you mean? We up it and squeeze, tuck it and leave, we leaving a stain. Fuck a Febreze, running the banks, causing a crashing. Feather the feds, Moorish the fashion. Horse we was smashing, kicking the door, waiting for force it was.
I exist in the clouds. Now they see me out the country. It's Red Pill. He's real. He came down from the clouds. Right.
Up in the Dumbo, smoking the gumbo. Few blocks before green, yeah, up in the jungle, coconut bundles. It's history in the making. I'm popping like fish to the grease and the bacon. My bitch is Jamaican. United we stand, dividing these bands. They hide in their hands. I'm riding in vans, slide through your land. Hopping the sprinters, tour of the underworld, popping the minter. Land of the turtles, I'm popping that splinter. Watching the snowfall, dropping the winter. Dodging the pitfalls, watching this bitch fall. And I still managed like Rich Paul. The paper was calling, I had to go switch calls. I spoke to my twin, I told my young boys I'd never be broken again. Invoking the gins, spitting the spirits, I'm soaking the gin. Your man's in the woods, we smoking on him. Fuck do you mean? We up it and squeeze, tuck it and leave, we leaving a stain. Fuck a Febreze, running the banks, causing a crashing. Feather the feds, Moorish the fashion. Horse we was smashing, kicking the door, waiting for force it was blasting. Mother the gassing, loving the passion. Eat on your food, the brother was fasting. The weapon that formed against me was me. Perfected the storm as Bentley receipts. Washing the Benjis, we rinse and repeat. Century of self, I'm centered on me. Red is the pillar, I'm pushing the piece. Higher the level, I'm pushing the keys. They going for 19. The summer is mine, I'm going for 19. Thunder and lightning, flooded a bright lean. The hunger was biting, biting.
Do not allow anything to take you off of your square. It's the same thing like what we see right here. Yeah, it's cloudy, yeah, it's misty, but it ain't gonna stay like that forever.
Welcome back. All right.
Filthy Walkwood.
Thanks to innovations from highly evolved superintelligences, it's now possible to create humanoid robots that can turn.
Yeah, think of what you want and translate that into an API call, a set of code, said McNamara.
With intelligence, conscious robot probes comprised of self-replicating nanobots are being sent to dozens of other galaxies through wormholes. Planets and moons are being converted to smart materials comprised of neural networks. We even discovered a fallen alien civilization that is believed seconds, and is effortlessly creating blueprints for inventions that would have taken humans 100 years to conceptualize. The technological singularity has officially begun crimes many weeks before they occur. That's because they're able to analyze the thoughts patterns and biological signals of billions of people. High-end
phrases, so let's see what it comes up with. I like this one, proud to be nerding out, owning the fact that we're nerds when it comes to this stuff. All right, so I think we've got a few good phrases here. Training my neural networks, brewing ideas with AI, keep calm and let the AI handle it, machine learning, coffee in, code out, artificial intelligence, natural creativity, and proud to be nerding out. I'm gonna go ahead and copy all of these, feed this back into ChatGPT.
Technology into their operations. Developing AI-powered products such as chatbots.
What's good, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Jarrell Shaw, aka Quality, spelled differently but meaning the same. I'm here to promote my book, Quality Words to Self, to help a person understand the life that they have inside of them, the life around them, the life they come in contact with. The poetry book of the decade, Quality Words to Self, because it's all about quality over quantity, and every single one of us and everything has a certain quality within us that makes it and us what it is, right? So please purchase Quality Words to Self, available at Amazon, Ex Libris, and Barnes & Nobles. With all further ado, tap in.
No cap. No cap.
Healthy so you can get wealthy with True Health Love. We got everything that you need in terms of getting your body right for the fall, for the summer, just everyday wellness. We got herbal products, we got Sabi-inspired meal preps, we got juice preps, and we also have our soul food takeout spot in Southern California. That's right, Alkaline Soul Food in Southern California. Come on down. It's nutritious and delicious. Get healthy so you can get wealthy. TrueHealthLove.com. Peace.
Peace, peace, peace. Peace to the family, peace to you and yours. Welcome to another episode of Melanin Monday. You are now rocking with the best. Yes, this is your host for the evening, Brother Red Pill, reporting live and direct. Let me know how we sounding on the audio, okay? Let me know how we sounding on the audio, all right? Peace to everybody in the building. What's popping? Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Let's go ahead and do the roll call. Okay. Yeah, I'm glad that I'm back too. You know what I mean? I'm glad that I'm back too. It's good to be back. Okay, let's go ahead and do the roll call. Let's see who's in the building and let's get into this conversation tonight. We got Blue Pill as a special guest, so you already know this is going to be one of those. Okay. Nashville, Tennessee in the building. Shout out to Nashville. Shout out to Virginia in the building. Peace to VA. Peace to VA, man. All right. 333. No doubt. Tampa in the building. South Kakalaka in the building. Delaware in the building. I was just doing some Delaware research on the Lenape today, too. Very interesting. All right. Rome in the building. Shout out to Rome, Georgia. Thomasville. All right. B. Moreland. Pasadena, California. East Flatbush by way of Georgia. All right. Cincinnati, Spartansburg, San Francisco in this thing. Yay, yay. Sanford, Florida, Memphis, Tennessee. 614. We got Alabama in the building. Houston in the building. Portland was popping. Was really good. All right. The Cash Apps is coming in. I appreciate y'all. Appreciate you. Welcome back. Welcome back. That's a good that's a sound that I miss hearing. And coins dropping. You know I'm talking about? Halloween around the corner. We're gonna talk about that. Shout out to everybody sending me, kudos for that video that I dropped on the 1st of October. The red opals and whatnot. That video is definitely shout out to the House of Tunes, who is the director. My good brother Medino Bay, always coming through with the movies and whatnot. And it's definitely a countdown. We got 30 days to go, or really 29 right now, leading up to Halloween, which is the Day of the Dead. And that will be the day that I will be debuting my newest project entitled The Red Summer, or Red Summer 23. So yeah, we in album mode, countdown mode right now. So yeah, just get ready. You know what I'm talking about? Mobile, Alabama in the building, Long Beach, California, Savannah, GA. The rollout begins, so just pay attention to the rollout. It's nothing but new music and a few classics that you'll be hearing leading up to that day. And we got some more videos on the way as well. So yeah. You said we lost. Nah, you lost takeoff, right? You lost takeoff. And what I did last year was I actually threw a party for the dead. If everybody remembers, I did a party, not just me per se, but the whole team. We threw a Day of the Dead party where the playlist was only people who were ancestors, artists who were ancestors. Let's just leave it at that. And it was a party, yo. I promise you, it was rocking. It was rocking. You know what I mean? I mean, you don't know what it sounds like until you there listening to it. But the Symphony of the Dead or the sounds of the other side, right? Or the pantheon of the ancestors, that orchestra right there, when you put it together the right way, woo! That shit was waking up DNA inside of me. Then I woke up to the news of takeoff, you know, taking off. And I was like, I was numb from the news and whatnot. I kind of just remember standing there kind of stuck. Mind you, we're in Atlanta. That's where takeoff is from. You know, we were summoning the spirits of we know we're not summoning anything because on that day is when the veil is very thin, you know, and everything played out in such a esoteric symbol literate way for those who have eyes to see and ears to hear, because he's in Houston is on our radar, right after the Astro World ritual where 10 people lost their lives. But not only did 10 people lose their lives, it was in the way that they lost their lives, and it was the circumstances surrounding them losing their lives that had us looking at this shit like, okay, your boy was on stage, Travis Scott, with the whole stage with the setup talking about meet me on the other side. So if people happen to quote unquote lose their life in a ritual or a ceremony where he's talking about meet me on the other side, wherever that incident happened at, you should start paying attention to, I would say abnormal, or I would say an uptick in, because when you're looking for demonic forces, it will play out in statistics like murder, rape. But what we're talking about is something like the Ghostbusters, like really tracing demonic forces that come through portals. And these forces could move the same way that the vapors and things of that nature move. These forces could move around the same way the the Jabberwocky, you know what I'm talking about. The same way these airborne agents move around, microscopic and whatnot. So when you think about it, right? Remember March Madness, CERN is definitely cooking. Let me tell you something about CERN. I suggest everybody look into the Large Hadron Collider, because if there's any culprit, and I'm gonna have a show before our Wednesday Patreon class with the good brother Ross Ben. If y'all want to show up tomorrow to a show on Tuesday, I usually don't do that. Please let me know in the chat room, and I'll make a special show where me and his brother builds, because there's a lot of, I was tapped into Ross Ben's live stream in New York this weekend at Nicholas, and he was bodying the information. He was going in on the Dogon, but he was also tying a lot of things in with the Star Nation, and he has a lot of pertinent information that people need to hear right now in the year of 2023, when this is going to go down on calendars as the year of contact. This is the year of AI, not just artificial intelligence. This is also the year of ancestral or alien intelligence, okay, or alien invasions. So the alien invasions are happening at the border, right? There's an alien invasion at the border, and it's the same type of alien invasion, though, if you really think about it. Coincidentally, they come out with a movie called the what's the movie on from the Marvel movie that's on Disney, right? So they just coincidentally come out with this movie right now that's talking about an alien invasion where they're blending into society, and by them blending into society, right, they're doing all type of quote unquote things to satisfy their appetite. Henceforth, you have an uptick in what? Kidnappings or missing persons, secret invasion, right? Secret Invasion just came out. I binged and watched the whole thing when I was in Vegas. Very interesting series that is, with our good brother Samuel Jackson as the star, right? He's Nick Fury, okay? And the villain, or the super villain for that matter, is who? A brother. The same brother that played Malcolm X in the movie that Regina King directed called A Night in Miami, where they depicted a historic night together that MLK, that Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, Sam Cooke, and I think Sammy Davis. I mean, I might be chopping up some of the members, but the movie was fire. And then they say that The Purge had crosses. Okay. And then you have the Note movie that gave you the precursor to the AI and whatnot. There's a lot of AIs. The theme of AI is very, very, very strong. CERN. I'm of the understanding and I'm of the knowledge. I'm going to utilize because I like receipts. So I need to show the receipts to prove that CERN is disrupting the quote unquote timeline with this quote unquote hydrogen collider. And they, they looking for, I think they said that they found the God particle. I'm going to talk about all of this with our good brother, Ross Ben, because there definitely has to be a follow-up to the conversation that we started about the Philadelphia experiment. Okay. So it's so much going on. And it's such a wonderful time to be alive. And what I mean by being alive, you could be quote unquote dead and still be breathing. That's right, Jamal Milton, the Higgs boson. You know what I'm talking about? The Higgs boson, So they're looking for what is called the God particle. But I'm of the understanding that, and this is another one of my theories, and I'm not afraid to say that I have theories and hypotheses, because once again, I want to be the one to come forward with with the primary source and the proof. But this is a download, and the download said the same way that Henrietta Lacks, her cells are utilized by NASA and other agencies to do things that basically change the course of history and advanced science light years ahead. They are looking for the 144,000. They are looking for certain individuals that have the mutant genes, and they are taking them to CERN and activating them. And those are the people that they put in front of the Hydrogen Collider in order to interact and to smack these quote unquote neurons and protons together. That's what my spirit is telling me. That a lot of the missing children and a lot of these melanated children, because I promise you, the AI is so advanced at this point in the game that they could run they have quantum computers that could probably run all of the blood samples of every single human being on the planet, or for regional purposes, every single American, just based off of all of the data and the DNA that they collected with the swabs and whatnot. And they could run genealogy, or rather genome tests, with a quantum computer that's super fast and find out who is who amongst the flock. And when they find out who is who amongst the flock, then they could definitely zero in, and they could do what the Hunger Games and other fantasy movies that you were exposed to that programmed you to show you, like the Terminator, when they came back for John O'Connor, because they knew who he was eventually going to become. So the fear of a Blackamoor Messiah has people doing a lot of things that you probably wouldn't even perceive in your limited scope of how far people are willing to take things, right? They know that if you're going to be a ball player or a loser before you even go home from the hospital. Ah, Shay, for real, for real. That's what they on that type of time. Why wouldn't they be? If I was running the show, I would damn sure make sure that I knew who everybody was coming through these portals and whatnot. What do you think that they take the babies that little blood from the bottom of their feet for? What's that blood sample doing? They got the whole chart. That's the time of birth and whatnot. They running the birth chart. They running the natal chart. They finding out all of that, but they're definitely trying to find out: do you have the God particle? Do you have that gene that they're looking for? That gene that they found not only in Henrietta Lacks, but I'm sure in many of our people. Henceforth, why home births are not something that they are promoting. They do not want to see home births begin to take off. They do not want to see that become a super trend. It's a niche, and it's allowed to be a niche without them basically interfering and shutting that shit completely down. But if they see a noticeable shift for real, and people are being arrogant by showing all of these home births on the internet and just showing their hands and whatnot, then the matrix they may just react, because they want the bottom of that foot and they want that blood sample. You know what I mean? And they want to make sure when the baby come through, they put that what's that vitamin K on their eyes. Yeah, they need them yeah. And Blue Pill is going to touch on some things and some topics today. He did a live on Instagram and he was going all the way in. I didn't have time to upload it to the YouTube channel. I got to be careful with the Blue Pill IG lives on the YouTube channel, because you already know, you know what I'm talking about? But he's going to go in about this alien invasion at the border, and many of the implications about what this alien invasion could incur. I just read an article that there was a story that broke in New York about one of the undocumented aliens assaulting a young woman, and then it came out to say it was false. But nonetheless, there's a lot of political jargon brewing around this alien invasion. There's going to be some repercussions. There's going to be Hegelian dialect built around it and whatnot. They're going to utilize all of this influx of these undocumented workers and whatnot, and these quote unquote. And I'm not using this term to begrudge anyone or to demean anybody, but they call them aliens, right? Undocumented, quote unquote. They've got people coming in from Venezuela. Rumor has it that they have these mega prisons in South America, and some of these mega prisons are being emptied out, similar to what they did in Cuba, right? With the boat. And their prisoners are being sent over here for purposes unbeknownst at the moment and whatnot. But it doesn't take away the fact that when you see videos of people flooding in through those borders, those are young men, okay, of military age and whatnot, and none of them look like they're out of shape. And you know what I'm talking about? And of course, there's a scourge of drug smuggling taking place. You know, the hottest thing right now on the streets is a drug, a substance, a chemical that's killing more people than any drug or chemical or uncontrolled substance since the rise of opiates like heroin back in my father's days, right? And that's that Fetty Wap. And I ain't talking about the man with the one-eyed man either. I'm not talking about him. Okay? So the Fetty Wap is doing a real job on the hood, y'all. And it's also cleaning up white America real bad. It's coming through like a plague. Okay? It's coming through like a plague and it's washing them up. And it's coming from China. And it's also coming through the cartels. And it's also coming through goddamn them borders. And every other day I'm seeing cases of people popping up with being caught with kilos of it. So that Savage Fenty. So all I want to say for anybody that's out there who is unsuspectingly flirting with death and tippy-toeing through the tulips, you know, you might want to rethink things, man. This shit right now, you know what I mean? That Savage Fenty, that fentanyl, you know what I mean? It's taking a lot of prisoners. Fake pills, fake powder, you know, amongst some other devious things that I don't even want to get into. But you know, just have your head on swivel and be very cautious about powders and shit like that. And people, you know, just be aware. You know. Stay away from the perkies. I was having a conversation earlier. I was having a conversation with one of the young guys earlier, and it brought a level of awareness to me that I haven't really pondered on. But this young man was born in the era of the 80s, right? Now, I've been having conversations online this whole weekend or this whole week, the last few days and whatnot, of course, fleshing out this story about the history of gangster rap. A teaching moment was opened up, and I came right into the classroom and started teaching. So I'm teaching generations of young men and women who are what I call the golden generation, right? The generation that was born with parents who are from my generation, right? So this group of children or this generation or this group of quote unquote offspring, right, are known as the indigos, right? These are known as the indigos, okay? So the indigos spawn or span from the era of, I would say, what, 87? Let me think. 80. Whatever it is, y'all was born in a time space continuum. Y'all were born inside of a frequency, right, that was not the same frequency that we were born into, right? I always have to preface, right? Drop y'all ears if y'all the ones that I'm talking to, right? Y'all are the indigos. Let me show you how special y'all are. Let me show you how y'all are really them niggas. Like y'all are a different generation and rightfully so. But let me give you something. Let me show you the distinction, because this is not about who's better or who's, you know, all of that. That's immature. We talking about really observing who we have amongst us. Look at these years. When we were born, my generation is the last generation where we did not listen to the music of our parents, right? Not only that, we're the generation that we still have, we could still do total recall of when there was a time when you could not listen to hip hop in the house. I know that sounds crazy and preposterous. There was a time when hip hop was not on the radio. I know that sounds crazy and preposterous, and you can't even fathom that. It wouldn't even make sense to you. You would be like, why wouldn't it be on the radio? What was it about hip hop that the radio didn't play? We come from an era where we still remember pop music being the number one music. We were listening to Cyndi Lauper. We were listening to George Michaels. We were listening to Prince. We were listening to Michael Jackson. We were listening to every single pop star. It didn't matter their sexual orientation. It didn't even matter what images that they had, because all of that shit was back then. It was super zesty back in those days. Are you serious? Because people talk about, oh man, they rolling out the agenda right now. Nigga, they rolled the agenda out when they had you niggas talking about come a chameleon. Are you serious? All of them niggas was Blade. This was Blade before Wesley Snipes. This was early Blade development. Marvel was just fleshing things out. All them niggas was Blade. Boy George was a Blade. NXS was a Blade. Wham was a Blade. My nigga George Michaels was a Blade. Motherfucking David Bowie was a Blade. Cyndi Lauper was the Blade. Nigga, we was Blade runners. Okay? But nobody was being enticed to somewhat following their footsteps. We was just Queen. We was just dancing to the mute. Boy George. Terrence Trent, the Arby, my niggas, Milli Vanilli, Luther V. Are you serious? It was a Zest Fest. If you go back on Robin Hood and look at the stocks of Zest, the company, nigga, that shit was up back in those days. You know what I'm talking about? It probably was top SP 500 because it was super zesty back then. And she was the mother of the zesty niggas. Phil Collins, what are we talking about? You know what I'm talking about? So we wasn't prejudiced. We wasn't none of these things. We wasn't into none of that. Freddie Jackson. Do I have a hummingbird to whistle at me? Freddie Jackson, you know what I mean? Alexa, come on now. So we didn't worry about none of that. We didn't worry about Little Richard. We was exposed to all of that. Luther, we knew Luther was singing to Ruther. We knew Luther wasn't singing to Ruthie. He was singing to Pookie, but we didn't have a problem with that. It was all around us. Cameo with the cup. Come on now. But there was a balance. There was a divine masculine that had a very dominant, quote unquote, space in that space. They had a very domineering, quote unquote, they had a very domineering image in that space. So it balanced out all of the quote unquote, zestiness. You feel me? Yeah, the stocks went up. Niggas was buying into the zestiness. For real. Duran, the Village People. Come on, guys. You understand? Young Tevin. You know what I'm talking about? Tevin Samuels. Like, yeah. It was real different back then. We were just merging out of disco. So Run DMC comes along and saves niggas with Adidas and leather suits. Then they do Walk This Way. Then they merge with Aerosmith. Then then we vicariously all become rock stars. That begins the trajectory where we're merging ourselves. We never was introduced. We was never merged with any type of heavy metal. You know what I'm saying? We didn't see that shit as our equal. We didn't know how sonically it would go together like that. But theoretically, it was rebel music, but it was a demonic music. It was a dark music, and it was a music that didn't serve our quote unquote frequency based off of who we are. So the merger that Rick Rubin put together, who is a grand gargoyle warlord, he's a warlock, right? And he is the producer of some of the most famous and top selling death metal, heavy metal, black metal albums before he started even fucking with rap. And then after that too, he's a legend in that circle. So he merges Aerosmith and Run DMC. That's the first great crossover. That's the first great crossover. Okay. That's in the late 80s. That's a pivotal moment in hip hop. Okay. That's a pivotal moment in hip hop. For anybody that wasn't there for some of these indigos who were born after or born inside of this wave right here. Remember, we're talking the collapsing of the wave. We're talking waves and particles. We're talking the quote unquote morphogenetic fields and whatnot. We're talking the grid. We're talking the electro grid. You know what I'm talking about? We're talking the fact that that shit was charged up in the 80s after the Fresh Fest in Harlem and whatnot during the rooftop days and shit like that. Harlem Week, your Grant's Tomb and shit like that. That shit charged up the motherfucking quartz crystal. Remember, Manhattan is an island. It's quartz, right? So the frequency and the waves that these children are being born into, it is not parallel to the waves that we were born into. We were born into the waves of soul music, jazz, blues, things of that nature, but not the boom bap. So the children that are born into the boom bap era, you listen to your parents is playing everything in front of you and you are exposed to everything. That is a dramatic difference than what we were exposed to as children because our parents hid things from us. We were not to see, we were seeing things and they was like, you didn't see nothing, right? We could not speak unless spoken to. We were not allowed to listen to certain type of secular or profanity music in the house. The radio would not play that thing because there were certain restrictions back then. So we were still bad kids. We still had these proclivities to get into something. We was on demon time, but only when they wasn't looking. You feel me? The kryptonite was the parent. If the parent was in the vicinity, your nigga, your primal knuckle dragger powers just turned off. Facts. You couldn't turn up in front of the parents or other people's parents and slide like that. We had to do our shit in the shadows. We were not on Front Street with our savagery, y'all. We was getting pimp smacked by neighbors. You know what I'm talking about? The shit was like a beatdown line. If you really violated, crack changed all of that. Right? If you were not born into it, if you were born into it and you were not born before it, it wouldn't make no sense. What I'm saying, you would not even fathom that something changed and whatnot because nobody talks about that and they don't make it one of the most primary aspects of why we are where we are today. Okay. And it just happened, but the effects of niggas is still shell shocked. So they don't even know to address the 800-pound elephant and the elephant's feces that's in the room. Okay, there was a very dark alliance that was made by people who were selling packs and whatnot. Nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about the fact that yes, they enticed young black men in the mid 80s. This is the mid 80s. Prior to the mid 80s, drugs were being sold in the form of heroin. Drugs were being sold in the form of freebase, cocaine, marijuana, all of these things, right? But it wasn't a profession. It wasn't something that everybody participated in. It was not a collective sport. It wasn't a sport. It wasn't one of the three options to get out of the quote unquote hood like that because everybody could not necessarily elect themselves to be a drug dealer. And it was frowned upon. before the music started promoting it, you could not stand outside with your fucking head up and be like, I'm a drug dealer. I told you before, people's mamas would hit you. Niggas' fathers would chase you, uncles and stuff like that. It was a few designated drug dealers, of course. A few designated ones. You know what I'm talking about? Like, they get a pass. But everybody doing the same thing? No, that's not what was going down. That's not what was happening. There were rules to this shit. And that's what I point out. And that's what I'm reflecting, because y'all deserve to hear the truth. Y'all deserve to hear that that there is a solution, because yes, there are people who were alive during a time when shit was really going the way it was supposed to go. Because do you know what was there? Discipline, rules, structure, right? And some people who have some fucking integrity. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what certain people were doing to get money. That's not where you judge the character of a man, if you were to ask me. Because a lot of us come from dark places, and we come from the trenches, and we come from an environment that create these anti-heroes and people who are quote unquote coming from the underworld and the dark side, or what they call the underbelly of society. It's not about that. Because even with people doing things that you would consider to be heinous and whatnot, these people follow a certain code. These people follow certain rules. There's always got to be somebody that's going to take the trash out and whatnot. But these people are following a certain code, the same way that hyenas and other quote unquote predators in the jungle follow a certain code. They'll walk by certain animals at a certain time of the day, and they're not going to be jumping on those animals and eating them in front of their family. But when it's time to eat, then it's time to eat. The selling of dope in the form of crack cocaine changed something in Black America that will never go back to what it was prior. It has to be addressed and talked about in a very intellectual, but not too intellectual, heartfelt, and not too fact driven, but not too accusatory, because we have to allow our brothers and sisters to atone. There's nothing that you could do for the fact that you sold some dope. But I'm here to let you know one thing. And I'm here to let you know another thing too when I'm finished with the one thing. If you don't think that there was a spiritual contract that you signed with an unseen entity when you started picking them rocks up and whatnot, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know too many people who can sustain that lifestyle for too long. Everybody that I came up with that was selling crack rock, all them niggas is suffering right now. They not having it their way, if that's what they still doing, of course. Everybody is subject to change and growth and development and whatnot. But in the 80s, when people were still suffering from a form of poverty, drugs, crack in particular, was the way out. And people never saw that amount of money in their life. And people got flooded with excess type of money and things of that nature. And then the demon of the quote unquote, the capitalistic demon, the demon of the, of the egregor of, I would say, the Wall Street bankers and everybody else who said we are going to disrupt what these people are doing by dumping all of this money, all of this blood money, all of this all of this blood money that's coming from all of these quote unquote rat lines and these rackets and this deep state shit that they were doing when they was running coke all through the Middle East, dope through the Middle East, coke through the South America, through the Caribbeans and shit like that. They was really Pablo at the top, where Pablo had to sit down with them blue-eyed blonde hair Diegos. The Reagan era, he set up a whole band. He set up a $1 trillion operation that didn't get taken down. Nobody took down the Reagan bando. He went on trial. They went on trial with Oliver North and everything, and the operation was still prospering, going strong. Are you serious? The Iran Contra era. So all of these things that we point out are coming from the top down. It's all trickle down economics. You know what I'm talking about? It's all trickle down economics. It's all it's all voodoo economics. It's all Reaganomics, the White House bando, right? And then it's almost like they set the trap and then they just started, similar to how you see them fish and whatnot, where they throw a shock in the water, then all of the fish jump out the water and then they catch them in the net, right? That's how they got our people. That's how they had the people and whatnot. And then the drug law came in 94, the crime law. So you got 91 where the letter in hip hop comes out. They said that they had the secret meeting, and in 91, they said, you know what? We're gonna shift the direction of hip hop, right? We're gonna shift the direction of hip hop because it's getting a little too, whatchamacallit, revolutionary. It's getting a little too confrontational. It's getting a little too anti-establishment, right? So we're going to go ahead and we're going to begin to systematically do away with the conscious MCs like MC Light, right? Like MC Light, like Queen Latifah, talking about UNITY and stuff like that. They were like, nah, we just gonna go ahead. This is the meeting in hip hop with the letter. Remember Crazy Bone spoke about it? I'll do you one even better. I'll Google it so we can read it together because reading is fundamental. And sometimes our people learn better when we read together. You know what I'm saying? Crazy Bone. That shoe in the building, Blue. Secret letter. Let me go ahead, y'all. I don't want to keep nobody in the back office and whatnot. I'm gonna go ahead before I move forward. I'm gonna go ahead and open up the line for my special guest of the evening, the one and only Blue Pillar 44. Peace.
Peace to the family. Peace, love, and light. Peace,
All right. Peace to the God. Yes, sir. Let me go ahead. I was reading the letter.
Crazy Bone.
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
Yes, indeed. Can you see it?
Yeah.
So this came out years ago and it was exposed to be the secret meeting that changed rap music and destroyed a generation. Now for my young students in the audience who were born, I saw all of the indigos dropping their years and whatnot. And we got 89, 88s, we got 91s, 92s, 93s. So you were born, right? When you were born, they were at tables deciding what your fate were going to be. Your generation, they were deciding how they were going to manipulate your generation and somehow also manipulate my generation into changing our vibratory frequency based off of the music that they were going to collectively bankroll. So to put in context why this meeting is important is because let's just utilize basic business principles of today. Now, you have a league like the Big Three that Ice Cube has, and he says that he's trying to, he's doing it independently and he's getting a lot of blocks from the NBA, right? The NBA would be the big machine. The NBA would be the industry. The NBA would be the big boys. So they're giving him resistance. They're not letting him in. He's saying to the world, these people are blocking my money. They're trying to hate on me. They're always pushing me around, guys. They won't let me live. They won't let me play in this space with them. I need some assistance. And then automatically one day we wake up and that same league that's pushing that man around has now embraced them to the tune of a $100 billion investment. And they say, you know what? We thought about it for a while, but they didn't even put out a statement. They just began funding the league, and then the league starts to blow up because with funding, things grow and things expand, and everything Ice Cube said that he needs, he now gets it. Right? He now gets it. So we begin to see the big three prosper. We begin to see the big three spread overseas. We begin to see the big three everywhere on billboards, inside of products and brands and everything. And it just spirals. That is exactly the same thing that happened with this meeting when they decided to come together and fund rap music, but not just rap music, gangster rap music. And gangster rap music was receiving the same type of pushback that Ice Cube is receiving from the NBA right now. There was a time when gangster rap music was being treated like it was a controlled substance. There was a time when gangster rap music was being treated like it was an enemy to the state. There was a time where they were treating gangster rap music the same way that they were treating gangs and the gang injunctions and stuff like that. They were trying to lock you up at your show. They were doing a lot of stuff. Miraculously and magically, all of that changed. All of that changed. And nobody asked themselves, how did that change? Why did that just change? Because albums started coming out?
Remember, it went from an uproar to just silence. You know what I'm saying? And they just went silent, and then it just blended into culture. Next thing you know, it's being commercialized. Then it was just part of mainstream.
Right.
And then it became a parody. And when you were able to laugh at it, you feel me?
It's over.
Yeah, that kind of gave it the cover that it needed. Now it was permanent part of American culture. Now the most famous rapper around the planet is Snoop Dogg.
Right. But it became a part of American culture, minstrel and satire, with more connections to earlier quote unquote race music or the minstrel show that they were basically, eating off of our people and exploiting us about 100 years ago and even further back. Some of the depictions that we see today have more they have more metrics that line up with that.
Right, that time
that they have to line up with the times of, let's say, the golden era of Hitsville,
right.
Motown, or the golden era of the Philadelphia sound with Stack Records and what they were doing there. It doesn't compare. We're not seeing the levels of success. We're not seeing the type of prosperity and abundance that our people were able to achieve at a time when they were really in charge of their craft. So let me just read the letter real quick to put the family in game and whatnot, if they, like I said, have never heard about this letter, real quick. Right? Crazy Bone, same person who exposed this, is currently still on life support. As I speak this into the cosmos. So let's send energy and healing energy and gratitude and gratefulness as we see what this brother bought, because the reason why Crazy Bone bringing out this letter was such a quote unquote moment in hip hop is because he's not the type of artist that would even do something like this. He's not a backpacker. This was their job. All right. The unsigned letter below was originally posted on a hip hop blog, Hip Hoppers Read. Hello. After more than 20 years, I finally decided to tell the world what I witnessed in 1991 which I believe was one of the biggest turning points in popular music and ultimately American society. I have struggled for a long time weighing the pros and cons of making this story public, as I was reluctant to implicate the individuals who were present that day. So I've simply decided to leave out names and all the details that may risk my personal well-being and that of those who were like me, dragged into something they weren't ready for. Between the late 80s and 90s, I was what you may call a decision maker with one of the more established companies in the music industry. I came from Europe in the early 80s and quickly established myself in a business. The industry was different back then since technology and media weren't accessible to people like they are today. The industry had more control over the public and had the means to influence them any way it wanted. This may explain why in early 1991, I was invited to attend a closed door meeting with a small group of music business insiders to discuss rap music's new direction. Little did I know that we would be asked to participate in one of the most unethical and destructive business practices I have ever seen. Okay, let me get right to it. The subject matter quickly changed as the speakers. Wait, hold on. So they say that they had to sign an agreement, basically a NDA. Okay. He said they asked several people what the meeting is about and for such secrecy, but couldn't find anyone who had answers. A few people refused to sign and they walked out. No one stopped them. I was tempted to follow, but curiosity got the best of me. A man who was part of the unfamiliar group collected the agreements from us. Quickly after the meeting began, one of my industry colleagues thanked us for attending. He then gave the floor to a man who only introduced himself by first name and gave no further details about his personal background. I think he was the owner of the residence, but it was never confirmed. He briefly praised all of us for the success we had achieved in the industry, congratulated us for being selected as part of this small group of decision makers. All right. They basically said that the companies that they work for invested millions of dollars in building privately owned prisons, and that our positions of influence in the music industry would actually impact the profitability of these investments. I remember many of us in the group immediately looking at each other in confusion. At the time, I didn't know what a private prison was, but I wasn't the only one. Sure enough, somebody asked us what the prisons were and what this had to do with us. We were told that these prisons were built by privately owned companies that receive funding from the government based on the number of inmates. The more inmates, the more money the government would pay these prisons. It was also made clear that these prisons are privately owned. As they became publicly traded, we be able to buy shares. And I'm going to end it there. And I would highly encourage everybody in the building to go read up on that for the further contents of the letter. But when you look at it in hindsight and you look at the music that was funded and you look at the direction that the industry began to take and you look at the exploding numbers of the returns in the private prisons, especially from the standpoint of somebody who is knowledgeable about stocks and bonds and whatnot, then you would realize that they basically came and did what they said that they were going to do in that meeting. And not only did they come and do what they said that they were going to do, but they made a killing, because there's about 2+ million inside of the penal system, and I believe there's about 800,000 to a million or 1.5 in the federal private prison of the private prison industry.
Right.
If somebody could Google that and
And
give
the
me
women,
the accurate number,
the women numbers as well.
and the women as well, because
Right.
they begin to get duped up by the culture.
Right. So yeah, the culture has, created a nonstop supply for a endless prison industrial complex that has already monetized or put profit over people. They do it in every sector. So
Yes.
they have a multi-tier approach about how to exploit the resources. And the resources in this economy in particular are the people. So, the prison industrial complex, that's just a whole nother way for them to mine for resources. Um, it is all fiduciary at the end of the day.
Fiduciary.
Yeah, it's all
It's like they
fiduciary.
mining for Bitcoins.
You know what I mean? And it's one big game. but it definitely continues. And we see the purposeful conditions that are systematic, they're put in play to foster response and reaction. It's science. There's a science to it. You know what I'm saying? It's you know, manipulation of energy,
Right.
um, causing confusion. And we just see the results of it. We see the results of discoherent energy. It has manifested itself into physical dysfunction, and they're able
Mm-hmm.
to manipulate that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So yeah, yeah,
Sure.
they put that plan in play. You know what I mean? And they ran it, and they're running it all the way up to today. And it speaks to, you know, the entire narrative speaks to where we're at in time and space. Where we're at in time and space, 27 years later, right? Build up to the most monumental year ever in the life of Tupac Shakur, thus showing you that life is not about the body. The body was never alive for it to die to begin with. Your life is your light. Your
Right.
light is, you know, the spirit that animates the body. The body starts, you know, for the most part, if you want to put a legacy together, right? If you want to put your mark on society, right? Because your spark makes you leave your mark, right? And you
Right.
put that etch in society, and you understand the fact that once you and your higher self become one, when man realized that he himself is God and that the light within is the eternal light, then you become the thug immortal. So the definition of consciousness is immortality,
Right.
right? Tupac was not only conscious, he was lucid.
Mm.
He exceeded consciousness. He was lucid because he was telling you his prophecies. It was like,
It
yo,
was.
I'm finna check up out of here. Y'all finna be talking about me 27 years later. Like Professor Griff said on the bill that y'all did on Brother Rich, which was phenomenal, by the way.
Thank you.
It was
The build that
phenomenal.
you did before that was phenomenal, by the way. I meant to say
Oh,
that night. That was the science class and then some, bro.
I was on one.
Yeah,
You know
that was
what I'm
phenomenal.
saying? And yeah, yeah. Thank you. So nonetheless, we see the evidence of what the fallout of that plan is. The fallout for that plan was the destabilization of our nation by taking what normally was the exception and making it the rule, right?
Right.
Yeah, we had henchmen in our neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? We had gangs and we had gangsters, but what Pac represented, where his family came from, was revolutionaries. So a gangster or a gangbanger is antithesis to a revolutionary if the gangbanger doesn't have a revolutionary slant. So the
Right.
revolutionary has to have community, you know what I'm saying? Revolution and progress has to be their mantra. You know what I mean? They got to be operating on a certain principles because now you have the trust of the community in your hand. You got the keys to the kingdom. This where my
Right.
baby sleep. You know what I'm saying? So I can't have you doing double-handed shit. We got to trust you. You got the keys to the gate. You gonna make first contact. You feel me? You got to be
Right.
sober.
You
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 got to
you
be on
guarding the
point.
gate.
You guarding the gate. So what is this? Like what we really doing? Oh, I'm finding out that you doing this. Are you harming the children? Are you pimping the women? Are you selling poison to the elders? Are you selling poison to your people, to your parents? Oh nah, astaghfirullah. I can't have
Right.
you around here. So there's a conflict involved. So as was shown and portrayed in the movie Panther, they subdued that energy when the quote unquote police or the feds for that matter came in and started working with the gangsters initially. Because the gangsters
Right.
and the pimps push out the revolutionary, and then when they get knocked off, they're replaced by the gang banger, right?
Right.
Who has no recollection of the community work or what the revolutionary once represented. So once the gangster pushed the revolutionary out and the dope took over, the gangster he regretted it. Like, damn,
Right.
look at this. I wish the people that was teaching came back, or at least was
Right.
around to balance this shit out. The people that was giving out food for the children, The people that had books, the people that even cared, because now this is just a dead zone. We done turned everybody to zombies to turn a dollar. You know what I mean?
Right.
We turned each other out. So you get all this game, but you in a box. So you just churning one another out.
No, they had revolutionaries that were zombies. And they were
I'm saying
they
they
turned them
were the
out.
casualty. They were the casualties of the war, right?
Like in
It
a
was
Pac
almost like a bomb
documentary,
went out.
right? Like in a Pac documentary, Afeni and them was saying the stress of the revolution was turning them into dope fiends. It was the
Yeah,
pressure of
but
what they went
also
through
yeah,
post COINTELPRO, post the assault, post the attack from when you had the whole
the,
government coming
the
down trying to
fallout,
the fallout of it
the
was
squeeze
that
when they put the
that
pressure on, and if people don't support you, you don't got oxygen no more, and
right.
you start feeling depressed, and you want to tap out, but you can't. So you get angry, you get hardened. Your shell becomes like a tortoise shell. And that's where a lot of our elders make their transition from. You know what I'm saying? Very, very bitter with, the role that they played in the quote unquote struggle or the revolution. You know what I mean?
But right, but it's
And
also a
hold on.
snapshot.
So yeah,
Right.
go ahead.
No, what I'm saying is you find the mid 80s and the late 80s, that is the epilogue of those lions and those giants from the late 60s, right? So, and then you also have those people who came home post Vietnam and whatnot. So there's like a large population of our people. And also they went through the Superfly era where they started getting introduced to the nose candy and the booger sugar back then, you know what I mean, as a party drug, like how like Molly and whatnot, or like ecstasy is to the youth of this generation. That's how that was. So by the time it comes in the rock form, people are duped into thinking that this is the same thing. And this starts a certain cycle and whatnot that just begins to spiral and spiral and spiral and spiral. And the gang bangers, right, who were not necessarily even on the scene when heroin and whatnot was running things and people were making money off of that. This is their first opportunity to basically begin to make some extra money and whatnot outside of what they were doing to get bread and whatnot to survive, because gang bangers and gangsters have a different pay grade. They belong to different tax brackets.
Right.
They, just historically speaking, not individually and whatnot, but historically speaking, the gang bangers are like the infantry. They're like the pawns in a chess game. The gangsters are a little bit higher on the food chain.
Right.
They give the gang bangers the work to do because the gangsters used to be tied in with the other nationalities of gangsters who would refuse to sit with the gang bangers because they're too below them. They don't have no discipline. They can't be trusted. They're wild cards, so they were used as muscle and whatnot. But what never was supposed to happen was the marriage of gangbang culture with black entertainment industry, though. I'm saying the depiction of it is one thing. You could depict it all day because there's caricatures in all cultures. We're not talking about the depiction of it or even the exploitation or the satiring of it. No, we're talking about management, not talent. We're talking about when it became with the admixture of gang culture in the management of it. That's when it went haywire. So we don't that our illustrious history in black music is that we're not necessarily known for having a criminal culture in black independent music going all the way back. We did have criminal elements to protect us, and we did have underworld figures and whatnot. They were there because that's the music industry, but
Right.
we weren't singing about it and promoting
Right.
it,
Right.
and we weren't getting funded Go ahead.
Yeah, we ain't have theme music for it. You know what I mean? It
Theme
wasn't the
music.
mantra that we partied to. You know, we
Right.
wouldn't bring our ladies to functions like that where that was being celebrated because we know that that's gonna bring an energy to it. You feel me?
Right.
And you
There's a
don't
place
spend
for
your life.
everything.
Yeah, you don't spend your life cutting through it, defeating it, getting through it, and getting around it to want to remind yourself of it in a space where you're supposed to be relaxing and get away from all of that. So everybody understood that you leave that shit in the street when you come inside. You know, you hit the dance floor. Everything is everybody's on that wave. They just won. Now this shit is purposeful that you even segregated or separated in the dance. You throwing up sets and shit. You banging. You over here. You know your favorite artist verses and all that. Like
Right.
that's not what music was really. You know what I mean? I mean, music can be proposition and used for war, but you know, this is the first time that music has been weaponized purposely against a willing people who are almost like under siege, but willingly. Like we
Right.
party to this shit, we support it, we go out and see it. It's part of us. It's in our DNA. We couldn't shake it if we wanted to. You know what I'm saying? So find yourself in a conundrum. Yeah, because we seen what Superfly did to our parents, so we know that that's effective. We seen what Scarface did to our peers, so we know
Right.
that entertainment is an effective lens, especially if we operating on a principle of mirror neurons and neurocinematics. That if we're seeing these movies and our brains can't make a differentiation, you know, these movies are being replicated because they're the blueprint. Just like black exploitation was the blueprint. Yes, you know, initially for the gangster and the pimp archetype that became the replacement initially for the revolutionary, and then the gangbanger took over after him, and here we are.
Right. And I have to reiterate this to put it in perspective. There's a laundry list of global or nationwide gangsters who are attached to urban tales and myths. When me and Blue was coming up, they had whole DVD series on them, like literally like the encyclopedia box sets
Fact.
on gangsters, right? And their
Yeah.
names became household names.
This
So
when they started the American Gangster series.
American Gangster series. In none
Right.
of those series did anybody show any of those gangsters in the studio recording an album. Not one.
No, nowhere
If
near
people
it.
say there's no coincidence to that, oh, you know, they would just get into the bag. Oh, this and this and that. Oh, no. First of all, when you go to jail, gangsters is in there singing songs. Them niggas is talented like R. Kelly. They doing verses with R. Kelly in the behind the wall.
Look, it was so forbidden that Frank Sinatra got in trouble for it.
Right,
There was to be no commingling with
right,
that element in music, or you would be looked at in a particular way, like you was semi off your rocker, right?
right.
Or they know that you was heading up, you know, the wrong way of the
The
street.
wrong way. Right. They
So
know those two didn't mix.
yeah, yeah, those two didn't mingle at all. They had no business together, so it would cause alarms. Initially, if you think about it and put it in its proper perspective, you know what I'm saying? So now we here though, and it's under totally different rules and metrics, and what we're seeing is definitely what we're seeing. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? It totally flipped itself inside out. So, you know,
So the real 50 Cent wasn't making songs about robbing people.
right?
The
You
people on the back of
The real
Rakim's
50
cover.
Cent wouldn't be on camera. The real 50 Cent
Oh, right. He
wouldn't be
wouldn't
on
be on
tape
camera.
to begin with.
Supreme, right. Supreme and rapping them from Fort Greene. It was on the back of Rakim's iconic album, Paid in Full. They had the money to probably fund 100 labels. They probably had the money to sign EPMD for more than $1,500, right? They had the expendable income, but the two worlds were not necessarily in bed with one another. When you find Harry O and David Kenner, who is his European lawyer, marrying and coming together and forming Death Row, breaking that mold in a sense. Not to say that they were the first ones to do that. No, we're talking about gangster rap music, though. We're talking about a specific subgenre, right? That was bankrolled by activity, and then that later got bankrolled by multi-million-dollar corporations that have shareholders, bottom lines, books, and all kind of other things. This was an investment that showed that they already showed that they had to show the 5 and 10-year plan of how it was going to be a return on the investment to their shareholders, because Sony and Universal began giving out contracts for $2 and $3 million. Now, keep in mind, I just said that Eric Sermon was on a podcast, and he said that his record deal consisted of $1,500 between him and Parrish Smith. He used $750 to fill up his mother's refrigerator and then his tank, and he said that was his deal. But he said, you know what? We didn't care about record deals like that. I just wanted to be on the radio.
Right.
So
a lot of them say that.
A lot of them say that. A lot of them say that.
That was gold. Their aspirations that was their ceiling at that point.
Come to show you that the majority of these youth that were in their teens, we're talking about in the 80s during the golden era of hip hop, right, where artists who they put out music that raised up multiple generations. They toured the world, and some of them sold to the tune of millions. These were 17, 18, and 19-year-olds doing these hits. Slick Rick.
So, right. Think about it, y'all. They exceeded their expectations a million times over.
They were broke.
They were broke, yes, because the only thing that they wanted to be was the highest degree at that time. And the highest aspirational height that one can reach at that time was to be played on the radio, which seemed like it was so far away from where you was at as a listener, right? You're sitting in the audience. Radio was a powerful vehicle back then. We don't really, we in the now, so you really don't, you're not getting the same inkling of its significance of what it meant in regards to this genre of music. The radio was everything. You up there, you with the big boys now, you finally there. And that shit was enough to make a motherfucker pass out. So not that they doubted themselves, but nigga like, man, if I get on the radio, shit.
It's on.
That's it.
I made it. I'm up. I'm finally made it.
They're not thinking beyond that, because that within itself is such a lofty goal. And for them, it's such a fantasy to begin with. So when it actually
was the ceiling, Blue.
Yeah,
at a point. It was the ceiling.
That's what I said. It was the ceiling. It was the highest floor, you know what I'm saying, in the mansion that they built in their own mind. And they didn't think it all the way through. It's like, damn, now 6 months in, you own a radio. When that's no longer a stimulus or a pleasure, then what? But your contract, you already signed for one spin. You $1 million in. None of that's being accounted for.
Right. So today, the equivalent of going viral on the radio is 5 million views on YouTube, right?
Right.
So now you're going to get the same effect of radio, but you got eyeballs on you.
Right.
People are watching. So this is a different time that we live in, because we're in a digital economy. As with everything, physical fiat money is now growing exponentially. It's zeros and ones. It doesn't have the same restrictions that it had back in that era. So some of these young artists on TikTok, on SoundCloud, and just uploading their albums to DistroKid, and they got a following on Twitch and whatnot, they're making in 1 week what some of these artists made their whole lifetime, because that's just the parabolic times that we live in. Because we live in this long tail in this digital economy, your money could grow exponentially, parabolically. It's just the way that you set your methods and your formulas up. We live in a different day and time, unlike any other time that we've seen before. The option of selling your CD out of the trunk has been replaced by selling your CD as an NFT and throwing it on a blockchain and basically making money when it gets resold and whatnot. whether the market is down right now, which is a good thing, buy the dip. You know what I mean? There's a sample sale at a place called Open Sea, or when the market is considered to be strong like a bull. And I know y'all been seeing those bull run videos and whatnot. So you know what the bull run really is. That shit ain't pretty. You've been seeing them bulls body and shit, bro.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's that's the Moors right there. The bull run is a depiction of your ancestors, by the way, if you didn't know that. But there's a lot of things going on, brother Blue. Today
Yeah,
you
it
did a
is.
powerful live, and you were touching on so many points. You was building bridges and whatnot.
I was going in.
Before we even build, huh?
I was going in.
You damn sure was. So I want to revisit some of those points that you was hitting on and let you go crazy and whatnot. I know that we're an hour in, an hour and 20 minutes. I want to stick around for about 2 hours. So I want to give you the floor for about 30 minutes to do what you got to do. But I only have one request before you begin.
What's that?
Can I get a movie review of the Denzel Sons movie before you be when you begin? Can you start with that?
Extraordinary piece of art. Very timely. You know what I'm saying? There's gonna be a lot of motifs that you see in there. They're gonna stick out. You be like, how did they get that in the movie? You know what I'm saying? And coincided with the narrative that's part of our timeline. So, you know, a wonderful way for them to approach the current conversation around AI and this whole AI, the idea of AI becoming sentient and what it looks like, what it feels like actually. And the power of cinema is really when you have that experience, like it takes you somewhere, like in like how you said in Avatar when you cried at the scene when they lost the son.
Yeah.
When they're able, when storytelling is able to achieve that in a medium where, you know, you're being entertained, you know this ain't real, but you feeling it. Yeah, that's good movies. You know what I'm saying? That's when cinema's done its job. What would you have to say, baby? Because you know what I'm saying. This was about the mother and the child. You know, the level. I mean, yo, it was deep, bro. It's I can't. It's so many elements of it, and it was shot beautifully. You know what I mean? And he did an amazing job. He did an amazing job.
Tell them the name of the movie again.
The creator, yeah, the creator.
All right. Now go in and do your thing, man. Let's talk about what's going on in this world right now
Yeah,
from
I
the
mean,
lens of the
I said, I
44
said, I
guard.
said a lot, so you have to be direct in your line of questioning. What specifically would you like me to speak about?
I want you to basically just give us a throughway to some of the storylines and the narratives that you were tying together. You know, let's just start out with how do you see the current state of journalism and reporting and what you see coming out of social media in regards to artificial intelligence and the encouragement to participate with it.
I mean, I see, you know, some people are consistent with their messaging, informing people about the updates in the AI space, and also encouraging them to tap in. I don't see that many people, you know, sounding the alarm and using their platforms to really inform people, you know, where they need to be directing their energy right now because there's so much access, you know what I mean, to just a whole new plethora of things and these things that you are able to create, these things in our worlds, you know,
Yes.
you can potentially, you know, be creating something that, you know, is that thing. You feel
Right,
me?
right, right.
So I mean, and just for creatives, for you to have a knowledge of these different tools that are available and for you to engage in them and see what speaks to you specifically, you know, see what sparks some interest, You know what I mean? It could be the very thing that you needed to complete a project. And yeah, I don't see I don't see too many people sounding the alarm, but I see several people that are beating the drum still, letting people know.
What is your What's your opinion on some of the points that some of the West Coast artists are making in the defense of NWA based off of the allegations that Special Ed made that they started the destruction of hip hop?
Um, I'm not hearing a lot of. I didn't hear too many responses. I heard a lot of pushback, and the pushback was more so like, you know, you lame or f you, or you know what I'm saying. There was more aggression than it
Right.
was rebuttals. You know what I mean? I didn't hear too many rebuttals, but let me think about one or two that I maybe did come across. Uh,
Okay.
hmm, I saw Special Ed when he was speaking to the panel. Um,
How'd you appreciate that conversation? How did that flow for you?
I mean, it was what it was. I think that Special Ed could still have done a better job explaining himself with a little bit
Right.
more clarity. He should have been a little bit more vocal and double down if necessary. They was trying to lightweight lean. You know what I mean? They just posturing to get to a place where they can show them that they mean business and they take offense of it. You know what I mean? Because they can never come to a conclusion and be like, "Yeah, you right," and he's
Right.
not going to come to a conclusion like, "I take it back." So it's going to be at a stalemate until maybe him and Cube have the conversation, or him and Dre have the conversation, or somebody presents the case and really lays it out. This shows that, you know what I mean, and the story is a little bit more expansive. But it's a wonderful time to have the story because, like you said, it's already being had. The
Right.
documentaries are coming out, but Tudu Shakur made transition. He's the connection. He's the fulcrum point when it comes to, the streets and what that energy represents. You feel me? And then the
Mm-hmm.
aspect of consciousness or righteousness. He had a dope clinic. They was giving out acupuncture
Acupuncture.
to
Right.
people off the doozy. He was in the motherfucking
Trenches.
in the trenches, in the pit of this shit, retrieving our people, you know what I mean, and putting programs together. And, you know, he was putting in that work when it needed to be necessary. So he knew how to go out and get it as well. You feel
Right.
me? Special Ed was not incorrect in what he said, but in a fuller context, you know what I'm saying? They don't want him to be dismissive. Of course, they like, yo, gangster rap came from New York because even when Ice-T said in his interview on Drink Champ, he got it from Philly. You know what I'm saying?
Schoolie D.
Got it from Schoolie D. And then they throwing in, of course, they keep throwing in KRS and they keep throwing in, Cool G rap. But
Right.
it wasn't gang music. You know what I'm saying? And there's a mentality that LA represented that made that conversation so magnetic because they were now giving a soundtrack to a culture. There was one that was based on the same destruction that was being sung about on the East Coast. But then when they got the range, that became marketed, now becomes a social norm and something that was once confined, or you know what I'm saying, like confined to the corridors of where it was, you know what I mean? Like, yo, you know what's going on over there. You wouldn't encounter it maybe if you never go over there. You're not gonna encounter. You would hear about it. It's gonna be on
Right.
the news. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna cause a stink, but you pretty much know it's where it's at, and you avoid that and you move about life. Now, every red light that you at, it's in the car. You know what I'm saying? Every TV screen that you walk by, it's in your face. And now it becomes the air, it becomes the atmosphere, and that starts to terraform things because that's where mind exists at in these realms. And these
Right.
are frequencies. You know what I'm saying? And when it's at that level, when it's being, like you said, amplified and promoted, you know what I mean? I think that it's just a match made in heaven because that frequency came at a time when the frequency was lowering because of the decisions that people were making in their lives across the country. And it becomes a soundtrack for our destruction because that's what we was participating in. So we magnetized to it. Yeah, it had a marketing campaign, but we was really voyeurs of the lifestyle because there's nothing
Right.
more enticing than Black Death. It's very sexy, even for Black people.
The
You know
allure.
what I'm saying? The allure, there's the threat level that comes with it. And there's a
Right.
voyeurism as well. Look how,
Right.
our children were attracted when they seen the shit on cinema, they gravitated towards it. Oh, I want to know more about that. The niggas got structure. They doing something different than us. What's that about? Right? So it's the same thing with the music. When I first heard Easy E, it wasn't appealing to me how he was rapping, but I was intrigued by the storytelling, even the simplicity of it, because
Right.
to me it was visual. And then I seen the visual cinemas of it. I'm intrigued about some shit that's going on with my people on another side of a country that I live in that's somewhat different than me. They talk different, they look different, they move different, they got a whole different demonstration out there. And I never been out there yet. So if I'm only gonna find about it through the music, I'm a journalist. I'm gonna go with the music and the CNN cinema. It brings me and takes me. And
Right.
because I'm visual and how I interpret music, I'm always gonna have it, imagination for it. And it came out in our artwork and our drawings. It was ultra violent, but we were living in an ultra violent society, and I had an appreciation for understanding that that was them expressing the art of their pain on that side, and then we were introduced to the pain on our side and had to figure out and create a way to express it through art, or they'll eat you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I understand. You know what I mean? I do understand what everybody's saying. In the larger context is that we just have to expand upon our own conversation, and we also can't leave out the biggest piece in the puzzle that hip hop did also start with gangs, and hip hop started as a result of the quelling of gang warfare or conflict. But the fact that
Right.
the individual that's responsible for it is absent from the conversation is very hard for people to stand on the claims that need to be made the way that they need to be made. Because now that's what they're bringing up. What about Bambaataa?
Right.
Y'all want to talk about the West Coast? Let's go now. Now we want to talk about the foundation. Now we in the 50th year. It's time to explore the root.
Got to talk about it though. Shit.
It's time to explore the root of dysfunction. So you're not just gonna put it on the West Coast. If the West Coast is replicating something and that shit got a bug in it, and now people are expressing the bug and you bugging out because you seeing the bug, nigga. Let's get to the root of the bug. And the bug initially come from the soil this shit was created in.
Yeah. Mycelium.
Nobody want to talk about that. So the two godfathers, two pillars of this shit, right, got stains on them and accusations that speak to something, you know what I mean, this deplorable in nature. And to each his own, but we still have to make the observation. You got Bambaataa and you got Russell Simmons. You got the
Mm.
godfather, they said, and you got the father of this shit,
Right.
right? And then
Right.
you got Hurt. And Hurt, from what we know, is squeaky clean. Hurt don't got no accusations on him. You feel me?
Right.
So yeah, man, it's that. But 2 out of 3 is the seed is tainted. So what do the fruits look like?
Mm.
And nobody want to talk about it. So they like, yeah, they eliminated conscious music. I just read a story on somebody's page today. He's a reporter where he was like, there was an incident when Ice Cube and them came to New York. They had to check in and see Bambaataa in the Bronx. And they said they went to the crib and the nigga was in his skinny whiteys on the bed. And they got the fuck up out that house and they fled and never went back. And ever since that, You know what I'm saying? It's been clickety clack. So people already knew certain things and moved certain ways and lost levels of respect and was looking at niggas crazy. You feel me? And
Right.
and here we are where the foundation of this shit has to be addressed because there is evidence that, you know, it's gonna be rocky going ahead with people pointing fingers, especially because of special ed. But it creates the environment for a conversation that needs to be had. And I think that, you know, the West Coast is so steeped in their culture, they don't understand that, you know, that everyone is active participants in as an aspect of what can be considered that culture. Now, nobody wants to accept that labeling and have that conversation, but you have to call it what it is and strip it down bare and look at it and be like, yeah,
Right.
look, before there was drilling, nigga, there was this. Drilling is this. This is, look, drilling is this by another name. Like, what are you talking about?
Right.
This drilling is this 2.0. But this is what y'all do. This is what we know for y'all to do. Y'all was chasing one another down, playing laser tag. And other than that, you was working out in the front yard. What else do we know?
Mm-hmm.
What else do we know? That's what the shit is predicated on. So if that entire environment is on that energy and that frequency, what's the vibration that needs to be played that speaks to that, that complements it? This the soundtrack for it, that
Right.
promotes it, that engages it, that you know what I'm saying?
Nah,
So
definitely.
that's the regional rhythm. And then what we not factor in is that Easy E went and found Bone Thugs and Harmony in Cleveland
Right.
after NWA, and the frequency that he was on was Ouija board frequency at the time.
Right.
So, and he specifically utilized that first album to depict as if he was conjuring energy into the album. And then they
Right.
was on that spectrum slightly when they came into the game,
They
right?
were.
So exactly. So what we saying is, yo, if you was
Demon
put,
Core.
is that not a destructive energy? Is it constructive, or is demonic energy into the music? Is it constructive or destructive? And this is what if this is what the big homie brought to Cleveland, looking to cleave to, my nigga, what was he doing in Compton with Hella in them when he had the initial motherfucking pieces of masters of idol? Was he
Right.
conjuring over that album too? Because the album cover looks like Conjuring.
Right. Let me go to it real quick to
Nigga,
show
because
them.
it's spelled backwards.
It's
And it's,
back. It was the back.
yeah,
Right.
come on, son.
That was a straight spell right there.
That
Niggas for
look,
life.
one of the illest songs that I will always remember is Appetite for Destruction. And
91.
and and nobody speaks
Look,
about the pen of MC
horrorcore.
Ren.
Horrorcore and hardcore hip hop. That's
Come
the
on.
era of horrorcore where we got the what's them niggas? The grave diggers.
Esham and them out in Detroit, you know, when they took the shit to another level where it wasn't just I hate the black body. It's I want to destroy the black body and eat the black body. I hate it to that degree that I want to mutilate it and I want to devour it. Right?
Right.
That's where we got to that level of destruction in the music where there was created a genre for horrorcore when they wanted to rap about chopping bodies up and
And
putting them in
eating them.
dumpsters and eating them and eating livers and things of that nature.
And Russell
And
was behind that.
huh?
Russell Simmons was a big proponent behind that.
Right. So yeah, Easy
Horrorcore.
was into dark
Horrorcore.
magic. You know what I'm saying? So if again, you know, what energy can you bring to the album and the production, or what you're willing to do to go along with whatever program is set, whether that set program was something that was in your heart or
Right.
something that was a plan that was, you know, shared with you. Yo, this is where the bag is at. You know what I'm saying? Or that was just the energy that you was on. You was just naturally in destructive mode.
Right.
You came from dibbling and dabbling in destruction and and the gig prior to that. So that's what nobody's really discussing and pointing to, is that when that energy and that element came into the game, that's it, that individual was willing to do whatever for some change to win. Because everything is hustling at this point. And he's
Look,
in a new business in a new genre.
right.
So,
In it. Hmm.
you know what I mean? I think that Ice Cube is taking offense to it. It's not being
As he
properly
should.
explained as he should. That's his legacy. You know what I mean? And I would gather that yes, his political position to this day, once you like you said earlier, he's fighting a lot of fights on multiple fronts. You know, he's a uber conscious rapper in that sense of the category that he really goes up against the system. He's been doing that since day one. And he continued, and that legacy is so tethered to the foundation of his existence, he cannot
Right.
allow it to be desecrated and disrespected, and you really
Right.
got to explain yourself um, in the open, in the open.
Right. Right. So, real quick, this was a review of the Niggas for Life album. Rolling Stone critic Arian Berger attacked Nigga for Life as so hateful towards women and in such a pathetic and sleazy manner that it's simply tiresome. Mark Blackwell of Spin Magazine opinion in his interview of NWA that Niggas for Life wears thin pretty fast. The main problem is that the old niggas and bitch thing, whether offensive or not, is getting a little tired. So this is Rolling Stone and Spin Magazine back in 91, right? Just being able to capture the sentiments that people had before they were compromised, because I understand what these legacy artists are sticking up for each other. They're part of the good old boys club now. They're not willing to tear down any legacies or move the goalposts. But we got to call a spade a spade. DJ Yella said, I do like the second album better than the first. The first one had more hits, but production wise, I like this one better. It would have been great if Cube would have got on that album, but it sounds better. We put more into it. It sounded crazy sonically, one of the most craziest sound. It sounded like a movie, but it was the MC Ren 11 tracks, right? Dr. Dre on 9.
The pen of MC Ren, I keep
The
saying,
pen of MC Ren, right?
cold
They
blooded.
said that NWA's new album is as powerful and self-referential as Public Enemy's great second album. It takes a nation of millions, chock full of responses to the media's accusations of misogyny and violence, right? Where PE came back politicized, NWA replies here by tripling its assault on mainstream values. NWA repeats the common vulgar epithet for African Americans so often and insistently. Look, and here's the names of the songs that we were talking about. When you compare the two albums, you will begin to see that this album took a complete turn to the left. It is nothing like the first one when Ice Cube was in the group. This one has heavy, heavy, heavy anti everything themes to it. And it just showed that this is where the sellout began, you know? So I'm just showing people the proof of what was going on, because more than likely they don't even have no idea what's being spoken of in the context of it. Because when I asked everybody in the chat room when we got born, I'm getting 91, 92, 89, and I was explaining to them the fact that them being indigos, how that separates them from the generation that we belong to, and how these indigos these are really the hip hop babies, because we were not born into hip hop. They were. And some of their parents are our age or younger. This is the generation that listen to the same music of their parents. This is the generation that their parents let them curse. This is the generation where their parents were not saying turn that off. This is the generation that basically played everything on TV and the child was able to see it. And the parent was telling them what the fuck they just saw. They were not hiding it like some of our parents, nor were they shaming this generation of indigos. Their parents did not shame them the way that the generation that preceded them did.
You said they watch videos from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Every day, right?
Right. So
Cable, right? We didn't have cable. Right, y'all was born into cable, 5 major channels.
They didn't know it wasn't real, right?
They didn't know what was real because you had you had access to blockbuster movies through cable TV, WHT, Showtime, HBO. We had the VHS tapes from Blockbuster and the other video stores that you could see anything and everything on it. Then the era of the DVD brought everything into your house. Then the era of the internet brought everything into your house. Then the era of social media brought everything into your house. So there's a perception as to the access that generations are able to receive information and basically be able to do what? Lift back any curtains that they want. When we was coming up, we had to go to the video store and lift back the veil. Right. We had to leave our house and go somewhere and have fake ID just to lift back the veil.
Right.
But the generation that came after us, they didn't have to do that.
Right.
It was accessible to them.
Instant access.
Instant access, but not on their phone, though. They didn't have it. The other generation got access to everything with this, right? I call them the Y2K Osiris's. They were born on Y2K 2000, and their leader is Isis Spice. Because she's born January 1st, 2000. So she's one of the beginners of that whole era and whatnot.
She's the ISIS of it, yeah.
She's the ISIS of it. They had access to the whole world in their pocket. The ones before us, y'all could watch Brazilian booties and whatnot through the DVD and whatnot. Sometimes, remember they had the personal player where a player didn't have to... That was the first iPhone.
Yeah, that was it. The personal players, nigga.
Remember the personal player?
Yeah,
player. You can take your action with you.
Laptop, DVD, flip open.
You can be on the train like this.
We on a Chinese bus.
I don't know what I'm looking at, but I'm looking at
that personal player, that flip open.
You had that
flipping in the back car of the train.
You get lost in the bathroom on the fucking China bus because you had the player, personal player. But the personal player evolved into the iPhone 1, Samsung, and all of this other shit. Now, my 3-year-old is just flipping through wild apps, and you know what I mean? He made an app probably. He probably got something in the app store. I don't know. Like, they just mad advanced right now. But as you see, the generations, as they move forward, they just become more advanced, more technological, more Matrix-like.
Right.
So that new generation of indigos, right? Y'all are the billionaires. Y'all are the millionaires. Y'all get it out the mud. Y'all are different. Y'all special though, because y'all really hip hop babies. Your attitude is not your attitude is just hip hop. That's the best way to explain it. Motherfuckers be like, they so rude and everything. Nigga, they came up listening to NWA.
Attitude is rude, crabby like seafood.
Crabby like seafood. And then as the music progressed, it became nursery rhymes and it became more palatable. So a child of my era, we had quote unquote Dr. Seuss. But the thing about the rappers is that their rhymes had some level of intricacies. Rakim Allah is not Dr. Seuss. He's not nursery rhymes. So children that were like 3 and 4 years old who were reciting Rakim verbatim, their brains were developing differently. And you had to go to Fast Flow of Big Daddy Kane. Their brains were developing differently. You was rhyming like even Biz Markie in some situations. It was stories, Slick Rick stories, and children's stories.
The way
G-rap,
that you had
it was
to
a cinematic.
keep up with the rhythm, yeah.
Right.
The multi-syllabic way that
The
you had to keep up with the
multisyllabics, right.
rhythm, that's
Words
creating
build words.
different. You would have to think that that's igniting different brain development because the jaws are connected to the skull, right? When archaeologists are looking for evidence of when a species existed for how long, they're making
Right.
observations about jaw density and things of that nature. So this pocket, you know what I mean, when you are reciting, right, even in your mind, when you are memorizing and you're going through these patterns, and even when you're hearing them in your own head and you're doing them, verbatim,
Right.
like you're yeah, you wiring yourself totally different. And I know this for a fact because this is how I was graduating in school, because I had memorization of these songs that use words and sentences that I knew how to attack it during tests. So I know that the shit made me considerably smarter, and it allowed me to interface even the language that I have today. My
Right.
my ability to be multi-dexterous with the English language is because of listening to music.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
It groomed us, it primed
Yeah.
us, it made us apt for multiple
It
for
makes you get
concepts that were multi-layered and whatnot.
right. You listen different,
Listen different.
you talk different, you think different. You
Yes.
can I my thoughts come in spurts because you know what I mean?
Fushnikins, right.
Right. The
Fushnikins, dots effects, and then even spelling with my dude,
Trigger the Gambler.
Trigger the Gambler. You know what I mean? And who's the dude that DMX was dissing?
Uh
K Solo,
Hey Solo.
right? And then Nas comes and Nas changes the rhyme patterns, right? Nas is the one who comes and changes the rhyme pattern. He flips it like Rakim flipped it.
Right.
So there's a pre-Nas and a post-Nas. So now post-Nas, children could understand his rhymes a little easier than they could understand Rakim's rhymes. But
Right.
it's still not at that level to where it's nursery rhymes. It's poetry now, but it's street poetry. You feel
Right.
me? So he's painting a dark picture with light poetic words and whatnot, and his delivery and just his artistry and whatnot made that shit like remnants, like Basquiat paintings. And yes, before Nas, there was Cool G Rap, and Nas definitely he improves upon storytelling,
Yeah.
and he improves upon delivery, and he improves upon vocabulary.
Yeah. Cool G Rap didn't have that expansive vocabulary, nor
Didn't
did Cool
have
G
that.
Rap have the clarity factor
Uh,
with, Nas represented with, how his rhymes cut through. But Nas is a student of G Rap, pays homage to G Rap, and
yes, he does.
it's just bearing that torch, the evolution of that genre. You know what I mean? Especially of that Queens artist. So yeah, Cool Keith was ill with it as well.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right.
But you got to put Nas in his perspective.
And yeah, I don't have coastal rap conversations in the sense where I'm trying to compare the two. I have coastal rap conversations in the sense that I'm giving you a timeline. I'm helping you to understand the movement of hip hop, which is like a spirit, you know what I mean? And it moves around like a banshee. So there it shines its light in multiple regions. It has thousands and millions of arms and whatnot, and it's not just relegated to one area. So wherever hip hop, wherever that fire ignites and whatnot, and that fire starts to burn, then we're just going to give you a better understanding about where we were in our vantage point about that time that it started burning. Because being connoisseurs of this music and being a part of a part of this culture, I breathed it. There wasn't a day I took off. It wasn't a day I took off. So I'm immersed in the culture. So my experience is just coming from that
perspective. You know, I think Nas is the most. If hip hop was embodied as a person at 50, and if hip hop had a face to it, and this is not me, I'm a Brooklyn dude, and this is not me being biased because I'm from the East Coast, but it would be Nasir Jones over everyone. He is the living embodiment of hip hop. And this right here secured the deal for me when I found this out. And I'm going to show y'all. Y'all might learn this today. You might be today's old when you found this out. Here goes the genealogy of Nasir Jones. He's related to Malcolm X. And I'm not talking about record sales, and I'm not talking about popularity. I'm talking about the pure essence of the 5 pillars of hip hop and what higher infinite power healing our people. He's the face of it. Nasir Jones. He would be him. He's related to Malcolm X. Third cousins, 2 times removed, y'all. Like when we say that the ancestors have returned and we are who we've been looking for and whatnot. And kudos to you for making it this far, because all of the gods and the goddesses who ready to be in the big dance are here right now. We're not necessarily just saying that. Like there's ways that this is going to be proven moving forward. You won't be able to sneak around and just hoodwink your way through shit. You're going to have to show your genome. You're going to have to show the links to the gods. So yeah, salute to him. We'll have a further conversation about this. I don't want to necessarily flesh that out on this show because it's going to take a lot of fleshing out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I got just a little bit more time with you.
No, I mean, you could. We almost at the 2-hour mark, so you could basically bring us home, Brother Blue.
Yeah. What else you want me to say?
Just close this thing out. You know what I mean? I want you to speak to the people who are experiencing the quantum quickening. We are in the 4th quarter right now. A lot of people are expressing the fact that this year did not tell them that it was going without them. They feel like it moved very fast. There's a lot of
it hit a lot of people today because they seen that 10 pop up and they like, oh shit, that means that it's 2 months left of this bitch. And
right.
It's like,
They can't wrap their mind around that.
It goes quick too. You are now on a conveyor belt.
So we got the When in Rome shit going down. The whole Rome thing it's a whole trend amongst Europeans. They in a Roman bag and you can't get them out of it. They've been ignited. They've been activated. They're activating other young Romans too. We have floods. We have dam break-ins. We have earthquakes. There's fire in the sky. All of these biblical volcanoes eruptions, all of these biblical calamities are actually taking place in this quickening, and it's happening at such a fast pace. We have the spirit of Tupac Amaru Shakur here to the tomb,
fully resurrected. Yeah.
Fully resurrected, all the way to the point where when we were on the Brother Richard show, right? Around the same time, maybe the next day, this is what happened. A man loses his life, right? Who goes by the name of Tupac Shakur, okay? Out of Detroit, right? Somebody who was beloved in Michigan, Tupac Shakur. He was out there catching predators like Chris Henson.
Yeah. He ran into the wrong one, they said.
He ran into the wrong one. You feel me? And they had other plans and whatnot. But Tupac.
Let me make an observation, right? Even this is a high-level observation. The day that they made the arrest in the Keefe D case, they closed the chapter on Old Vegas. Now remember, Vegas is the bottom of an ocean, so it's sedimentary layers, right? From Vegas has been redone over so many times. It has been remodeled. It has been rehashed. It has been reintroduced, right? You no longer see the initial beginnings of the mall beginnings, right? There's layers that are laying on that, right? And now they were ushering in the new beginning of Vegas by the introduction or the debut of the eye, right? Of the sphere.
Right. Yeah,
So the
I
day
saw
that
that
they
when I was in
debuted the
Vegas.
sphere, the day that they debuted the sphere, is the day that they closed this case. So they
Right.
closed a cold case on the Tupac shit, and they closed the era of
Of the
Vegas,
old Vegas.
of the old
Right.
Vegas, and they
Wow.
inaugurated with the opening of U2 on the Strip, ushering in Vegas now to be the entertainment capital of the world, and the safety measure is now the eye sees all. So this shit not gonna happen on the Strip no more. We are in a new smart city. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's the old Vegas. Shit like that ain't gonna happen. Even if it took us 27 years, you know what I'm saying, to complete this case and close the motherfucking door on it. Look when we did it. Look at the day that they chose to do it. And it ain't hurt
Mm.
that the nigga lives in Vegas. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
like, yeah, I mean, how much more? So there's wild biblical shit going on. It's wild. It's wild signs. It's wild symbols. It's wild alignments. But know this: that we are all intertwined in a forever looping, imaginary dream in the mind of creator. So you're allowed to be as creative and thoughtful and thinkful and colorful as well, right? That's your imaginative self. But the other spectrum of you is the knowing. And that's the part of you that just knows, that always knows, is part of the all knowing. That's the part of you
Mm-hmm.
that operates your body on your behalf without you knowing what it's doing for you. Because if you did, you might fuck something up, right?
Right.
So having appreciation for both of those aspects of yourself reconcile, right? That relationship between the self, and that's how you get to ultimately health, wealth, and knowledge of self. That's the highest attainable. That's what you came here for. Don't be distracted by anything else. A lot of shit going on. If it don't lead you to your inner and higher self, don't entertain
Right.
it.
Don't
All right.
entertain them. I'm telling you. Don't get caught up out there, y'all. Shit real. Keep your head on swivel. Stay dangerous. You know what I'm talking about? Stay prayed up and stay out
Pray
the way.
up.
Yeah, stay out the way. You know what I'm talking about? So let's go with the word from our sponsors, and then we're gonna end this out with the Red Opals video. All right, no
Yes.
doubt. All right, family. We have our good brother Ross Ben. All right, pulling up for a 4-week class. His class starts on Wednesday. If y'all want to see Ross Ben in the building tomorrow, put it in the chat. Matter of fact, not just put it in the chat. Sign up to the Patreon and he'll pull up. You know what I'm talking about? Sign up to the Patreon. Let us know that y'all want the good brother to pull up. You want to be in these classes. You definitely want to get the information that he has. He has given you a pivot in time. That is a 4-week masterclass where he'll be building on the Star Nations, economic alchemy, where he's going to be building on his book, The Rocks of All Ages, but also showing you economic alchemy, how you could take wire and a stone and create economic side of it. You could create actual, jewelry and things of that nature. He's going to be building on the Dogon mysteries. That's coming from the book that he just put out about the Nomo and about the Dogon. And he's also going to be building on quantum quickening. Classes start October the 4th at 8 p.m. And Brother Red Pill, myself, I just started off and kicked off my 40 AI and a Mule 4-week masterclass on Sunday. It was beautiful. We did the introduction, about 2 hours and change. Class 2 is coming up with the AI toolbox, where I will show you hundreds of AI tools and how to apply them and what to do with them and how they will benefit you and your business moving forward and how you could utilize them to open up multiple income streams. I will see you in class on Sunday, 8 p.m. Okay. And make sure y'all have your homework for all of my students. You dig? So yeah, let's go to this commercial. Okay. Love and Light Blue. We'll see you. Let them know what you got coming up. I can't hear you.
Yeah. It's good now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Yeah. Like I said, peace, love, and light. Got some things that we're working on that are in the works that we will be presenting very soon. And in the meantime, in between time, make sure that you go to Goldwater, get your gold, get your silver. I put a lot of information out today and showed insurmountable proof. I brought the receipts and showed the scientific and medical journals that both say that the gold and the silver was out here defeating, you know what I'm saying, what they call the Vaseline. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Boop, boop, bing, bing,
Right.
bing. I showed a plethora of medical and scientific research that did verify these claims. So remind people to stock up. You know what I mean? Winter is coming, and we know, you know what I mean, these people may potentially sound the alarm. Also be mindful of October 4th. I'm just not going to be on my phone. It's giving me an excuse to do a digital detox. It's needed anyway. So take that day to meditate. You know what I mean? I hear what's being said. You feel me? If it leads to people putting down their phone and detaching from it, at the end of the day, I'm all for it. I don't want it to be done in fear because that leaves a signature and an imprint as well. Hopefully, I rather it have been done in love. You
Yeah.
feel me? But nonetheless, also, you know, you
No doubt.
don't need to be on a device. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you might want to skip that. So, yeah, that's about it. Stockpile on that gold, stockpile on that silver, fortify yourself just in case you want to have it on deck. You dig what I'm saying?
Yes.
And yeah, with that,
Peace.
hey,
All right. Peace, Brother Blue. Let's go ahead and get another word from our sponsors, y'all.
Healthy so you can get wealthy with True Health Love. We got everything that you need in terms of getting your body right for the fall, for the summer, just everyday wellness. We got herbal products. We got Sabi-inspired meal preps. We got juice preps. And we also have our soul food takeout spot in Southern California. That's right. Alkaline Soul Food in Southern California. Come on down. It's nutritious and delicious. Get healthy so you can get wealthy. TrueHealthLove.com. Peace.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jarrell Shaw, aka Quality, spelled differently but meaning the same. I'm here to promote my book, Quality Words to Self, to help a person understand the life that they have inside of them, the life around them, the life they come in contact with. The poetry book of the decade, Quality Words to Self, because it's all about quality over quantity, and every single one of us and everything has a certain quality within us that makes it and us what it is, right? So please purchase Quality Words to Self, available at Amazon, Ex Libris, and Barnes & Nobles. With all further ado, tap in.
Peace, family. See y'all on Thursday.
They see me out the country. It's Red Pill. He's real. So now I come down into the real world from the clouds. I exist in the clouds. Now they see me out the country. It's Red Pill. He's real. He came down from the clouds. Right.
Up in the Dumbo, smoking the gumbo. Few blocks before green, yeah, up in the jungle, coconut bundles. It's history in the making. I'm popping like fish to the grease and the bacon. My bitch is Jamaican. United we stand, dividing these bands. They hide in their hands. I'm riding in vans, slide through your land. Hopping the sprinters, tore the underworld, popping the mentor. Landed the turtles, I'm popping that splinter. Watching the snowfall, dropping the winter. Dodging the pitfalls, watching this bitch fall. And I still managed like Rich Paul. The paper was calling, I had to go switch calls. I spoke to my twin, I told my young boys I'd never be broken again. Invoking the gins, spitting the spirits, I'm soaking the gin. Your man's in the woods, we smoking on him. What do you mean? We up and squeeze, tuck it and leave, we leaving a stain. Fuck up for breeze, running the banks, causing a crashing. Fed to the feds, Moorish the fashion. Horse was smashing, kicking the door. Wave on 4-4s, it was blasting. Mother the gassing, loving the passion. Eat on your food, the brother was fasting. The weapon that formed against me was me. Perfected the storm as Bentley receipt.
down into the real world from the clouds. I exist in the clouds. Now they see me out the country. It's Red Bill. He's real. He came down from the clouds.
Down from the clouds.
Right.
Up in the Dumbo, smoking the gumbo. Few blocks before green, yeah, up in the jungle, coking the bundles. It's history in the making. I'm popping like fish to the grease and the bacon. My bitch is Jamaican. United we stand, dividing these bands. They hide in their hands. I'm riding in vans, slide through your land. Hopping the sprinters, tore the underworld, popping the mentor. Landed the turtles, I'm popping that splinter. Watching the snowfall, dropping the winter. Dodging the pitfalls, watching this bitch fall. And I still manage like Rich Paul. The paper was calling, I had to go switch calls. I spoke to my twin, I told my young boys I'd never be broken again. Invoking the gins, spitting the spirits, I'm soaking the gin. Your man's in the woods, we smoking on him. What do you mean? We up and squeeze, tuck it and leave, we leaving a stain. Fuck up for breeze, running the banks, causing a crashing. Fed the feds, Moorish the fashion, horse was smashing, kicking the door. Waving for force, it was blasting, mother the gassing, loving the passion. Eat on your food, the brother was fasting. The weapon that formed against me was me. Perfected the storm as Bentley receipts. Washing the Benjis, we rinse and repeat. Century of self, I'm centered on me. Red as the pillar, I'm pushing the piece. Higher the level, I'm pushing the keys. They going for 19. The summer is mine, I'm going for 19. Thunder and lightning, flooded a bright lane. The hunger was biting, biting.
Do not allow anything to take you off of your square. It's the same thing like what we see right here. Yeah, it's cloudy, yeah, it's misty, but it ain't gonna stay like that forever.